Good morning, everyone. Amanda here from Little Lotus Yoga, and welcome back to another Mom Chat. I am really excited. This morning, I have Emily Boros Rausch from MiaThrives. Emily is a pregnant person who's also living with a rare disease, EB, or you may have heard it before referred to as butterfly children. Emily is also the creative director of MiaThrives, an organization that helps support butterfly children. Being pregnant brings forth challenges for many of us, but imagine navigating pregnancy through a pandemic and also having a rare disease. Emily is here with us this morning to share with us some of those challenges she has faced and some tips on navigating pregnancy with a rare disease. So Emily, thank you so much for joining us and being here with us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about EB and MiaThrives as an organization, just so we can let all of our listeners and viewers know a little bit more about what we're going to be diving into today?
For sure. So EB is short for Epidermloysis Bullosa, which is quite the mouthful. And it's a rare genetic skin disease that makes skin extremely fragile. And that is why there's the term butterfly children, because their skin is so fragile, it can often be described to similarly to how fragile butterflies' wings are. So just the slightest friction can cause painful blistering, and there's different forms of EB, and it ranges from being quite mild to extremely severe, and in some cases even life-threatening. So like you mentioned, MiaThrives is a Canadian charity, and we work towards supporting the emotional needs of butterfly children living in Canada. And kind of the way I came to start working at MiaThrives is because I also have EB. I was diagnosed pretty early on. I was just a few days old when they noticed that something was wrong with my skin, and was diagnosed pretty quickly after with dominant dystrophic EB.
So what has EB meant for you on your pregnancy journey? Has it been challenging to find care providers who understand what this rare disease is about and who are familiar with it? Can you share with us a little bit what this has meant? Because I think a lot of times we become pregnant and there's stress and things that come along with pregnancies during regular times, non-pandemic, not having rare diseases. But then you throw in these curveballs, I can imagine that it can create some more stress and anxiety.
Definitely. Well, I was pretty spoiled, and I was born and raised in Toronto, where there's one of the only EB clinics. So I had access to doctors and specialists who knew all about EB. So I honestly, it wasn't something that I was ever struggling with before moving to the East Coast of Canada and before pregnancy, really. And when I originally moved, I thought, okay, no problem. It was before COVID so easy to just jump on a Porter flight and be in Toronto in 2 hours, and I could see my doctors there. So that was the original kind of game plan, that if there was any hiccups during pregnancy, that I would just go where I needed to go to see specialists. But with COVID, it really changed things, and I can no longer just hop over to the EB clinic to see specialists. So it has been a challenge navigating a support system here in Moncton. So I guess we kind of took a different approach because there were no specialists here. And the majority of doctors who I met only heard about EB for the first time meeting me. like my OBGYN, when I first met her, she'd never heard of ED before. But I can say now she's quite the specialist because getting to know me and helping me through this journey and researching EB and reaching out to other doctors, they really have been quite amazing here about kind of like rallying together at the hospital and making sure that like everyone's aware of that I have EB and that there's a 50% chance the baby will have EB, because so much of caring for a newborn with EB is preventing injury, because that's all we can really do to help, since there's no cure, there's no treatments. So it's really about preventing blisters and wounds.
Wow. And so, I think it's amazing that we're going to see some more education happening through, thankfully, you and MiaThrives and all of the great work you guys are doing and helping to educate more people. But on the flip side, I am sure it is very challenging to know that when you walk into a hospital or a doctor's office, not everyone necessarily knows how to support you or understands the disease or what it is that you've been going through. So what are some of those challenges within pregnancy, or what are some of the things that, we need to be cautious of when baby comes? So will they wait until delivery to understand if baby also has EB? And is there a precautions or change or specific labor and delivery plans for yourself in your pregnancy?
Yeah, those are great questions because those are all things I've been dealing with. So just to start off, there's such limited research and information out there about rare diseases, and then especially about things like pregnancy with a rare disease. So it's been a struggle. I've been searching worldwide for information to make informed decisions. So like there's one big study that's been done in Australia, and that's where we've gotten the majority of like information, and just reaching out to people around the world. And it's taken a lot of time to compile that information to make the best decisions, like deciding if I was going to try for a natural birth or if I was going to schedule a C-section. And we had to figure out, weigh out which would be the best decision for me and for the baby. And again, it was hard finding that information. So what I'm super excited about and have been working with the MiaThrives team is we've been putting together all this information that I've been collecting, so that in the future, hopefully, when there are other people with ED growing their families, they have all these resources in one spot and don't need to go through what I had to go through, which was countless hours of research and calling people and emailing doctors from around the world, and that's kind of stressful when you're trying to enjoy your pregnancy. So we really hope that some of those resources will kind of help other people to just have everything in one place so that they can make whatever decision is right for them and right for their families. So another decision we had to make is if we were going to do the genetic testing before the baby was born. And we decided not to, because I think getting pregnant during 2020, which was just, I think, like an insane year for everyone, I was like, you know what? I'm taking like 0 risks right now. So that is why I decided against the amnio and some of the other tests, because of some of the risks that were involved. So we do not know if the baby has EB or not, although there were options that we would have been able to tell. So we will only know when the baby is born. And even at that, it really depends. Sometimes children with EB present right away, and sometimes it's only a week or 2 later. that they'll start to show signs. So basically, we have to just treat the baby like they have EB regardless until we get back the genetic testing that confirms it. So we might only know when the baby's about 2 weeks old. And yeah, there's the 50-50% chance. And it doesn't so much affect my pregnancy. And that's why I wasn't so worried about finding out or not, because it didn't affect that process, but definitely affects the delivery. So since I'm trying for a natural birth, and since we don't know if the baby has EB, there's certain things that are completely off the table, like the use of forceps or the vacuum. If the baby has a hard time coming out, we can absolutely not use that, because it could seriously damage the baby's skin. So in that case, it would be like a pretty quick emergency C-section. So we have to be planned for that. And even just planning everything we need at the hospital for the baby for, we're hoping for the best, but we have to prepare for the worst. So we have to prepare for if the baby's born without a large section of skin and having the proper bandages. And people with EB are bandaged quite differently than other people as well, because of how fragile their skin is. So it's been quite the process, preparing and just making sure we have everything good to go, and making sure that all the healthcare providers that we come in contact with, both the baby and I, that they're aware of EB, because there's just little things that that most people don't think twice about, but can cause serious injury for people with EB. Even just simple things like getting blood taken or getting your blood pressure done can actually cause blistering for someone with EB.
Wow. I mean, I think most of us during our pregnancy journey, we can go onto Google or Facebook and ask any question we might have, and a million different Facebook groups pop up that we can connect into and source the information. And so I can imagine how challenging it is when you are trying to find the information that you were looking for in your pregnancy journey, and it not being readily available because it is such a rare journey. And so I want to thank you for creating resources for others down the road who may be navigating something similar as you, because I know it can feel really isolating when we feel like we're the only one going through something and we're trying to source the information. And so my heart goes out to you. And I'm also so thankful for yourself and MiaThrives for creating this information to make it more readily available for others, so they don't feel as alone and isolated on this journey. I guess for those who aren't familiar with EB, what is something or some things that you wish people knew more about it?
Wow, that's a tricky question, because I think to start, I guess I just wish more people knew about EB in general. I think that's the biggest thing, just raising awareness for EB, and even just rare diseases in general. I feel like one of the hardest things is the lack of information and awareness. So I hope that anyone who tunes into this today maybe goes and tells somebody else about EB. And I think just having more conversations in general about rare diseases, about EB, about different, just being open-minded to problem solving, even just for healthcare professionals, and doing things a little bit differently for different people's needs. I guess just kind of also being open-minded and asking questions. I think that that's something else that,
And I think sometimes people are hesitant to ask questions And I think it's important that we ask those questions. We're just mindful of our approach or our tone or in how we're maybe wording the questions. But I think you're right in the sense that it's important that people understand more about all of these different rare diseases. And that when we inform ourselves and we're better educated, we're then able to better support those in our network who may be affected by these rare diseases. And I think sometimes people are afraid to ask questions because they don't want to offend people or put people on the spot. But I think when we ask questions in a mindful way, that oftentimes they're really well received.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like asking questions is always better than making assumptions about people. And I think that can also be something really challenging about living with EB. And even personally growing up with EB, it was sometimes more painful dealing with people and how people reacted than it was actually dealing with the disease. And just assumptions that people made. That I was burned, or that it's a contagious disease, which it's not, it's genetic. So sometimes the way people react, I feel like can really negatively affect people with EB and make them feel self-conscious about their bodies or their scars or their bandages. So that's another thing that like MiaThrives is working on, like body positive campaigns, and for children to be able to have role models and see other people thriving with EB. And growing up, that wasn't something that I had. If you just type into Google epidermolysis bullosa, the photos can often be pretty horrific, and the people's faces are often even just completely blurred out. And although EB is a terrible condition, and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone, and especially the more severe forms can really just affect every aspect of someone's life. But I think still holding on to that positivity and showing people with EB still managing to live their life to their fullest and do things they want to do. I think it's really important for us to share that to the next generation of butterfly children, and give hope for those kids and even for new parents with EB, because although once you have the condition, you have a chance of passing it along, it also happens spontaneously. Like, for example, no one in my family has EB. It was a genetic mutation. So when my parents found out about EB, they were pretty traumatized. So we hope that can also be a resource for new parents to get information, and to get information that can help, and also just have like the community support and have some peace of mind of some examples of people still living their lives with EB.
This is such great insight that you are sharing today. And I'm so appreciative for you to opening up your journey to all of us, and giving us a little bit of an inside look at what it's like living with EB and then navigating a pregnancy and moving into parenthood as well. For those who are interested in learning more about MiaThrives, where can they find out more information?
So you can head over to our website, MiaThrives.org. We have lots of video resources you guys can check out, stories on people living and thriving with EB. We have a podcast, EB Hacks. So yeah, we really hope that you check that out.
Amazing. And we'll make sure that we link those links and information down below so everyone's able to access it. Thank you so much for being here and chatting with us today, Emily.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.